morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to look at a new Mismagius card, except it's not really a new Mismagius card. Except it definitely is a new Mismagius card. Well, gee whiz, Wossy, that sounds confusing, yes. Yes, it does sound confusing. You see, a little while ago, the Mismagius from Unbroken Bonds went and got banned. It was literally too good. It had that amazing thing whereby you could just KO it, give up a prize, but then draw until you had 7 cards in your hand. But then you combine it with Duskstone so that you could evolve it the turn you played it. You could go Mischievous, Duskstone, boom, you're off. And then you could do that, and then you could play around with stuff like Reset Stab to give your opponent a small hand, etc, etc, etc. It was kind of annoying and kind of broken, so we banned it. It got banned, but we were told, ladies and gentlemen, we were told by Pokemon that we would be getting a replacement, and it is here. And it is extremely different. And I mean extremely different. We're talking different HP, we're talking no ability, we're talking completely different attacks with absolutely nothing shared between them. We got a 3 energy attack turning into a 1 and a 2 energy attack. It's very, very different. But it does still have that C legality mark, which is to say it will be rotating in September 2021. It is going to be rotating out very quickly compared to other newly released cards. Okay, so what does it actually do? Well, no surprise that our translation here comes from the lovely Antoine Boulet. And if we start off, we've got HP of 90, which is both low and 20 less than it was before, so that's kind of sad. Retreat cost of 1 does open up U-turn board for free retreat, so that could be a little bit worse. Resistance of fighting is nice to have, especially with all these fighting weak decks like Eternatus, which in theory are going to be bringing in some more fighting decks. I know I'm playing a lot of fighting decks, but then again I'm always playing a lot of new fighting decks. And you are weak to darkness, but it's not a huge deal. I mean, one of the Hoopers, it will be an issue. But the other Hooper doesn't hit for weakness, but then again it hits you for 90 anyway. Eternatus really doesn't need to hit you for weakness, you've got 90 HP. The point is, most Pokemon that would be hitting you for weakness are going to one-hit KO you anyway. But I suppose maybe that one Hooper is going to make a difference. And being a Psychic Pokemon is fine. It means you're hitting weakness on Mewtwo and Mew, which is nice. And it means you can use Horror Energy, so if your opponent attacks, they've got to take a couple of damage counters. The basics here aren't particularly good. The good news is we've got a couple of attacks. Now, the first attack I'm not terribly impressed with. It is single energy, 1 psychic energy, 20 damage plus confusion. That's it, that's what it does. 20 damage plus confusion. It's fine. But when I say fine, I mean fine. I don't mean good, I mean fine. It reminds me very much of Xurkitree, weirdly enough. We've got a Xurkitree that for a single energy does 20 damage and confusion. And this is quite nice. Turn 1, you got nothing else to do, so you confuse them. And I mean, confusion's kind of annoying, right? Because they've got to flip a coin if they want to attack, and if they flip tails, the attack doesn't actually work, they just take 30 damage instead, which isn't a particularly nice thing to do to your opponent. And this can buy you some time in the early game, but it is a get a bit of damage down and buy yourself a bit of time attack. It is not a, yes, now I win the game kind of attack. And here's the thing. You've still got Duskstone. So whereas we could look at Xurkitree and go, well, that's a basic and Mismagius is a stage 1, and that is all completely true, and it's still going to be more awkward to get the Duskstone than just have a basic Pokemon, you do still have the option of this as a single turn surprise, turn 1, call it what you will, Pokemon, and that is nice. That does help. But this is not really why we're playing the card. A nice little bonus if you're playing the card anyway. There will be some turns, some games where it comes in kind of handy. But make no mistake about it, this is not why we're playing the card. The reason we're playing the card is for the second attack. 2 energy, 1 psychic, 1 colorless. If your opponent's active Pokemon has exactly 9 damage counters on it, that Pokemon is knocked out. Oh. Yeah, that ain't bad, ladies and gentlemen. That ain't bad at all. Instant KO on anything. But it's not necessarily that easy to pull off. Now, the second I said this, I'm assuming an awful lot of you, your minds went to Yveltal GX, and it probably should have done. Yveltal GX's GX attack, Doom Count GX, for 1 Darkness Energy, if the active Pokemon of your opponent has exactly 4 damage counters on it, that Pokemon is knocked out. So we've seen this before, and let's be clear, Yveltal has seen a whole bunch of play, and Yveltal only stopped being played because it rotated out. I feel very strongly that if Yveltal was still in the format, Yveltal would still be seeing play. So why am I not jumping up and down over the moon of a Pokemon where it's basically that, but it's not a once per game GX attack and it only gives up 1 prize rather than 2? And it's not the fact that it's a stage 1. The fact that it's a stage 1 isn't a huge issue. If you're serious about this card, you can use Duskstone, but even so, stage 1s are not that hard to get out and get using. They ain't stage 2s. They ain't basics, but they ain't stage 2s. I suppose by definitions they are, well, they're stage 1s. Kind of obvious, I suppose, when you look at it. But the point is, a stage 1 doesn't worry me. What worries me is that you need 2 energy and 9 damage counters. You see, Yveltal was perfect in, say, an Obstagoon deck. Because you've got Galarian Zigzagoon, which will drop 1 damage counter when you play it. And then you've got Obstagoon, whereby when you play it, you drop 3 damage counters. So essentially, you evolve up into Obstagoon, 3 damage counters, then you bench a Zigzagoon, and then it's basic Pokemon single energy go. And the thing that made Yveltal so phenomenal in Obstagoon decks was the fact that you could literally just go, I've got my abilities that are naturally going to put 4 damage on, and then I've got basic Pokemon single energy. And yeah, sure, it's limited to once per game. We'd rather use it more than once per game, but it really wasn't the end of the world, because that once per game was 2 or 3 prizes on a multiple prize Pokemon, and we did just fine. But that's not where we are right now. I mean, one of my other uses I loved for this was actually Spiritomb. I loved Spiritomb with this, because if you had a single damage counter on Spiritomb, and Spiritomb's ability will put a single damage counter on, you hit exactly 40 damage. And if your opponent knew that you were playing Yveltal, that put them in a super awkward position. Do they go, okay, you know what, I've got this, I'm going to heal, and literally waste resources healing when they've only got 40 damage on? Or did they go, I hope you don't have Yveltal and an energy and maybe a gusting effect, which a lot of the time you did. That's why I loved Yveltal. 9 damage? And don't get me wrong, right, it happens. I mentioned Hooper earlier. Well, the Hooper from Darkness Ablaze, if it became active this turn, does 90 damage. The Hooper from Unified Mind, if your opponent has 4 Pokemon with abilities on the field, does exactly 90 damage. Spiritomb with 2 damage on will do 70, and then you can use Galarian Zigzagoon and scoop up net, which is a lot more awkward. But again, if you're KOing a 2 or 3 prize Pokemon with a single prize Pokemon, I don't care. But it's not as easy as it once was. With Yveltal, we could legitimately go, you know what, mate, I've got abilities that can do that. Roxy, when combined with stuff like Weezing, will do that. Roxy, discard 2 Pokemon from your hand, draw 3 for each one discarded, and if it was a Weezing or a Coughing, incidentally, you dropped 1 damage counter on each of your opponent's Pokemon. So using 2 Roxys with Coughing and Weezing would literally put every single Pokemon on your opponent's side of the board into Yveltal range, but we don't have that here. Casually dropping 9 damage counters onto a Pokemon doesn't really happen. So could you just play Hooper with Mismagius? And the answer might be yes. Because the fact of the matter is that your opponent, unless they're playing some healing, is either going to be playing a single prize deck, and a lot of the time 90 or thereabouts will be enough to deal with a lot of single prize decks, especially their pre-evolutions. And then this will go and get a 1-hit KO on 2 and 3 prize Pokemon, which will help you win the prize race. But now you're doing 2 attacks per KO. So against a GX or a V, you're 2-hit KOing for 2 prizes, they're 1-hit KOing for 1 prize. You're not winning a prize race like you were before. Or you're Now, if you can 2-hit KO for 3 prizes on a VMAX or a tag team, and they're 1-hit KOing for 1 prize, then you're winning that round. But it's a lot more awkward than Yveltal. And then you've got that second energy. Malamar's gone. Malamar would be amazing, but Malamar's gone. So what do? You could energy switch from another Pokemon that's already got the energy. Or you could use Turbo Patch while you're still a basic. Or you could use my favourite trick and use Tapu Koko to get a lightning energy on there, and then attach a psychic from your hand. Worth pointing out, of course, that this is psychic and a colourless energy, so the second energy can be anything. And if you want to play lightning, don't forget that Zapdos is extremely similar to Hooper. It does 80 damage, but with a Vitality Band, Zigzagoon, etc., you'll be up to 90. So maybe there is a deck there, and maybe this can work. But my point here is extremely simple. It's awkward. And that really is where we come down here. This is an awkward card. And I know we've seen this before, but we saw it on a Pokemon where, yes, it gave up 2 prizes, and yes, it was a GX attack that was once per game, but that once per game really did work quite nicely, and I honestly don't know if I can say that here. So let's go ahead and give it between 3 and 4 Wassies. I believe that there is a lot of potential here, but I don't know how much I believe that this is actually going to end up being a phenomenal card that makes its way into a huge amount of decks. Though I would very much like to be wrong. But now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to know what you think about this, so do be nice and let me know in the comment section, would ya? Go nuts! Be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at The Wassie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.